everyone, it's Mel with the Quilting Room with Mel, and we are making this giant snowman today. This is for the Underground Crafter Christmas in July blog hop. The video is going to be for beginner sewers, so it may go into a little more detail if you have sewn before. If you need help cutting fabric or making half square triangles, those are separate videos. They'll be linked below. That way you can follow those instructions a little closer, and this video isn't quite as long. So let's get started. All right, let's get started sewing our snowman. So I messed up and I went ahead and sewed our first unit. So the first thing that we do is we sew our hat band to our hat, and I already did that. And then we're going to go press, and when we press it, we're going to press to the black. So we're going to press. Oh, we want to press it so that that seam goes this way. Okay, and when we press in quilting, it's not like ironing clothes. I'm going to pick my iron up, and I will take you to the ironing board on a smaller piece so you can see it better. So I'm going to go iron and we'll move on to our next step. All right, so I have my piece pressed, and we are going to match up our background pieces right sides together. So 1/4 of an inch, we want to make sure those raw edges are matched. 1/4 inch from each side, repeat on this side, press it the way the pattern calls for, and then we will sew the brim of our hat on. We have our background sewed on, and now we're getting ready to put the hat band on. So again, it will be right sides together. And if for some reason your hat band is like this, it doesn't match up the full length of your, or the full width of your hat, double check your seams on the side. If you have too much, they're too narrow. If you don't have enough hat band fabric, they're too wide. So you'll have to rip those out with Jack the Ripper. We're going to sew, we're going to press, and then we're going to set this unit to the side because we're done with our hat for a little while, and we're going to start building the snowman. And I will get the first part of the first snowman sewn up, and I'll meet you at the ironing board so we can talk about how we press that open so you can see it a little better. All right, so I brought the ironing mat to you instead of moving the whole camera setup. Here's my block, and I always put the color that I'm going to press to up. Okay, and then I give it a quick little hint just to set the seam. Don't ask me if it actually works. That's just how we were all taught, so that's what I do. And then I'm going to open it up. And I do use steam. Some people don't. And then just push it down. Then I always flip it over and make sure it's nice and flat on the other side. All right, so I have my eyes done. I'm going to show you something. So let's zoom in. See this little spot right here where I didn't quite get my black and my white lined up. That's okay. If it's just a little bit, it will get hidden in the seam. You don't have to rip it out. If it's a lot, bigger than our seam allowance or pretty close, go ahead and fix it. So let's zoom back out. There are our little eyes. And we are going to sew this on. Now, when I sew this on, whichever side, that will become my top. So I'm actually going to sew it on the side where I have my little goop, and that will be my top. And then we'll keep building our snowman. Right. So we have our little eyeballs all sewn, and now we have to give our snowman some shape. Okay. And we do that with half square triangles. And in the pattern, it says you can line up snowman to snowman. Let me move this over. Let me put the other one down. All right. But you have to make sure that your pink is out to the outside. Okay. Or your background. Mine's pink. The pattern's blue. You may pick purple. Whatever works for you. But if we go this way, then we're going to give our snowman a great big fat head across the top. And that's not what we want. His head is not as big as the hat because the hat will sew up here. Okay? And the brim should hang off of the snowman. So that's why we need it to go this way. That way the brim is out here. The rest of the little snowman is up in the hat. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And just sew those. And here I say press as desired because you're sewing white to white. There is no way to hide the seam. You're going to see a little bit of shadow, just kind of like you do here. It's not a big deal. This is not a show quilt. I mean, you may enter it in a local fair. That's awesome. If you do, let me know. I want to know how you did. But this won't hang at Houston. This won't hang at Paducah. It's okay to have some shadow. All right. So let's go sew this and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay. So I have our little snowman. And now we need to put the little spacer in before we do our nose. Okay, so just like before, right sides together, 1/4 inch. And then we'll make a nose. Okay, so I have my nose laid out. We've got the 3.5 inch side paired to the half square triangle. My angle going this way, not this way, definitely not that way. Just like that, we're going to go sew that 1/4 inch seam and press it over to the solid piece, okay? And then we'll just add our 2 pieces of snowman and press those as the pattern calls for, and we'll meet back here to put that row onto our snowman. Okay, so I have my nose sewn. And I know someone's going to ask, hey, why is it lime green thread? So if you're new to quilting, you probably haven't heard of Eleanor Burns, but if you're not, you know Elle. And Elle always sews with red thread. So it shows up on camera. And Eleanor Burns, I adore her. So I use green thread to show up on camera as kind of my homage to her. So it's always a green or a teal. And teal is my favorite color. It's usually what my nails are painted. A Tiffany bluish teal somewhere along in there. So that is why. We have our nose done. So our nose is getting ready. We're ready to sew it to our face. And we just line up the ends, sew down 1/4 inch. Don't worry about this here. I know it looks funky. It will go away when we sew it. And that's so that our corner comes out right with our seam allowance. All right, I'm going to go sew. And we're just going to keep building the snowman. All right, it's time to start working on our mouth. So we have 2 pieces of coal, our end pieces, and then our long piece in the center. Okay. Now you may notice I have sticky notes right here on the side of my table. I have some scrap fabric too if I need to test something real quick. And I have pens. I use those sticky notes and pins to label, especially where we have a lot of pieces that are similar. I can pin them together with a sticky note that say, hey, these are the two 6.5, this is the 10.5, and I can keep it all straight. So just like we have been sewing quarter, pressing to the coal, we're going to do that and add it to our snowman. All right, we have the first half of our smiley face, and we are going to go sew it on. Here, the only thing that matches up are the ends. Now, we need to sew the other half of our smiley face. So last time we had shorties on the end and a long one in the middle. This is the opposite. We've got a short one in the middle and our long ones on either end. And again, we're just gonna 1/4 inch all the way through. All right, we are at our last piece of our snowman body, head. It's just the head. So we are going to add our snowman background half square triangles, the smaller ones. And this time we're angling up, and that's so you'll see it when we sew this, we get this section onto our snowman. It gives the illusion that our snowman isn't a square but kind of rounded. So on each end, we're going to sew those half square triangles, press them. I'm going to sew it, go ahead and sew it on to the bottom. Then we'll look at our snowman. I had to move my snowman to a desk so you can see it all because it is bigger than my cutting board right now. So you can see how the half square triangles kind of give it that rounded shape. And now we are ready to add the background strips on the side. So let's move back over to the cutting mat so we can talk about those. All right, we are back over here at our work table and we are ready to add our background strips to either side of our snowman. Now, when we have added these strips on, I told you, if this strip doesn't match with this one, then we need to fix the seam allowance, all that good stuff. Before, if for some reason you put it here and you have, something like that, before you start taking rows apart to try to find the one that may not be sewn right, repress everything. It is very possible that you have a little fold here or in all of them that's taking up some fabric. So when you press it, it will actually change the size of your snowman. So we're going to sew either side on, right? We're going to sew both sides on, press out, and then we're going to sew our hat on so that we have everything down to one piece, and then we just need to make our scarf and sew it on. So I'm going to get everything sewn, and we'll look at it and go from there. All right, we've got the hat on. Again, we are on the wall this time, not even on a desk. Had to go to a wall. But our snowman's looking pretty good. We're gonna head over to the table and make the scarf for him. I also got to have a date with Jack the seam ripper, because I sewed the hat to the bottom. And how I realized that was the nose was upside down. No, the mouth didn't set off any bells. No, it was the nose. So don't feel bad if you have to rip out a seam or two or six. We all do it. Okay, so let's go make a scarf. Okay, so I messed up and I went ahead and sewed the scarf. But it's pretty easy. And I lied to you earlier. I told you another step was going to be the hardest point that we had to do. But I forgot we have nesting seams. And that means seams here have to match up with seams on our snowman. Oh, this seam here has to match here. And then down on this end, our half square triangles have to match. So to do that, I pressed this seam, both of the seams towards the white. And then down here, I pressed this one towards the pink and this one towards the half square triangle. And that way, when we put it all together, those seams will nest. And let me show you what I'm talking about. We have this seam and this seam, and when they're pressed in opposite directions, then they'll butt up to one another. See how they nest? I mean, that's what we call it. And to keep that, and make sure my raw edges are lined, and then I just put a pin in. Okay, we'll do it again on the other end. A little easier to see. There's not so much. So we have the white one here and the pink one. And they just kind of butt up against each other. And we sew our final seam. So I'm going to sew it, press it. We'll head back over to the wall and we'll look at our wall hanging on the wall. All right, there's our snowman. It is ready to be sandwiched and made into a quilted project. You can check out more information on how to do that on the blog, link below. Thank you for participating in the Underground Crafter Christmas in July blog hop. And I can't wait to see your project. Bye, everyone.